think we're live here, V, but who knows with technology these days? What we'll do is wait a couple of minutes and see how all this wonderful tech works. So just wait for people to join us as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Coming to you live from home. I had a few calls this morning, and I'm heading in, and I thought I would do this from the music studio. So I've got some really cool lighting, and later today this turns into a creative zone. So
I bet.
yeah.
I bet it. So some future LP is going to be created where you're standing now, and there we are.
Yeah.
Oh, we're live. There we go. That's not wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, I responded to a post today, and I said, can a CISO be technical and creative? So is it possible? Is that, in this whole new world of what we're doing, are they the skills that we need, right?
I think so. I think
Mm.
so. I've just checked here. We are indeed live. I think people are starting to join now. I am watching in the background with a slight delay, which is always off-putting, but it's turned
Cool.
9 a.m. in AWST, so Perth time out in the west. And I'm really pleased this morning. Lovely friend of mine, collaborator. Goodness me, V, how many projects have you and I got going? It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. But I'd like to introduce Vannessa Van Beek, lovely friend of mine. Very a fascinating human being. The number of things you do and the amount of work you do to not just in cyber but broader. So global CISO of Fortescue, but also collaborates. I collaborate with you, and you collaborate with me, and everyone else at the university as well, and a lecturer there. And we're here to talk about AI. But V, do you just want to give everyone a quick background before, specifically on AI and how this came to be? Because I think this has come from many a coffee together, hasn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I'm V. I am a CISO. I'm a mum. I'm a lecturer, and someone fascinated by the human brain. So Dan and I have had a few conversations, and sometimes the conversation for half an hour drifts in to an hour and a half. And as a result of some of the long conversations, we've shared some of the things that we're involved in, and we've sort of deep dived and to write this essay on AI together, which is one of my great passions, and it's been a great collaboration. And we're also connected through Murdoch University. So yeah, it's really great to have a couple of things that we're jointly doing some research on and doing some writing on.
It is, and fascinating as well, sort of seeing each other around the world now at the various conferences we've both
Mm.
collaborated on as well. And to see that unfold, I think is special. But the essays are important, V, because what I learned is a few years ago, the way we solve cybersecurity problems is by doing it together, isn't it? And
Mm.
the amount of research and endeavor that CISOs and others put into things, if you can bring it together into, I guess, a distilled way, hence the essay, which we'll just publish the link again, or remind everyone the link at the end of this
Mm.
setting. And I think if you work a problem together, that's problem shared, problem halved, and goodness knows how many
Mm.
new thoughts evolved, right? So,
Mm.
our title today is AI security, not so quiet anymore. But do you want to share with everyone how we got here? Because, and not just in AI, but how you and I kind of started fusing our ideas on this.
Yeah, so I was sharing on some of the research that I was doing. And some of the things that I was noticing, particularly about how I thought AI was being adopted faster by attackers than we were in defence. And that's where I sort of started experimenting a lot with AI. And when we talk about AI, there's lots of different kind of. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. But I was working with a security specific LLM to see how we could, you know, respond to incidents faster, analyze malicious code faster, do some threat hunting faster, all of those sorts of things. Um, and then when I started my new role and I saw the size of the program that was in place, the organization I'm at, I then started exploring how are we going to secure the data, the access, the models that we choose to use. So yeah, so we started, discussing some of these problems and collaborating together. And I think we started really researching it deep when we were in Sydney at CISO Sydney. And following on from that, I think you said, Dan, let's do some writing on this. Let's bring together some of the work that's been written, but let's kind of really dive deep in this and see if we can pull together some ideas, examine the frameworks, the regulation, explore the problem a little bit together from a couple of different perspectives, because we've got different backgrounds. So it's nice to work with people whose minds are different, because we have that different perspective when we try and solve things together. So that's kind of been the shape of the collaboration that we've done.
It has, and you're right. It's that different sense of perspectives, but working the same problem. Well, I think we called it the dark side of the moon the other day, didn't we? There's areas of your own
Mm,
knowledge or other people's knowledge that you don't, until you really work a problem, you don't anticipate or see or understand
mm,
how. And I think this is a problem in the cybersecurity industry because everyone, not everyone, it's an overstatement, but there is such an emphasis on AI and adoption, which is pulling in so many vendors into this space. And the problem is they have their solutions which are geared to the way they've designed them. And the problem set is they're not working the problems of their clients, the other side of that, and what challenges are there are. So, in essentially, what are AI companies in the business of? And I guess selling license keys when there's so much more to it, and it's a very important thing. But I don't think they take the time necessarily to really understand the other side of each other, if that makes sense. How would you
mm.
take that further forward, V? Because I know we see so many problems manifest as well, don't we?
Yeah, well, I actually like to work with a couple of partners in depth, and share some of the problems and some of the struggles that we're working on, and then experiment with the solutions.
Mm,
So, and having shared some of what we're building, some of what we're wrestling with, um, I'm actually finding that there's actually some really great solutions that address the problems. So that's been really a great experience. So I I think there's a lot to be achieved through partnership. So yeah, so I'm yeah, I think it's been good. Yeah.
Partnership's everything, isn't it? But I think the partnership's got to be working the problem. So we said
Mm,
in the outline here, we picked three themes, didn't we? And
yeah.
I must admit, I'm very proud of how proactive we've both been on driving this. So let's look at the first theme: AI as the new surface. AI as the new surface of attack. Share with me, V, your thoughts on this because AI systems clearly introduce different vulnerabilities, but they're unlike
Mm,
traditional software and they do have novel attack vectors. They really do.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a whole new world for us, isn't it?
Mm, mm. Yeah. So even from the idea of if if we put we've got security concerns which also include privacy protection, um,
Mm,
which is really important to protect the sensitive information from disclosure.
mm,
Got to secure the model, and then we've got to secure the supply chain connected to that. So we're looking at the infrastructure, the model itself, the data, protecting the data from poisoning, all of those things,
mm.
and the interfaces for each of those, and then also the access controls that sit around them. Um, but if this was just a security problem alone, um, we could put the technical solutions together for that, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
With AI, we have to be careful around all of the safety protections, because that sometimes we have to be careful that we're managing for bias, and we're managing for making sure that we're preventing any kind of toxic or unusual kind of behaviours that the model might display. So they're really important as well. Um, and the world is wrestling with lots of things at the moment with AI, with copyright, with IP. So there's those issues as well. Um, so and I yeah, so if we think about it, we've got the privacy issues, we've got the security issues, and
Mm,
we've also got the safety issues, because AI really should be for social good. It should help us solve problems in the world that we haven't been able to solve yet. And that's kind of the overlying kind of responsible AI framework that underlies a lot of what we try and do. We try and solve those problems that are really difficult.
It is so multidimensional, isn't it? The word fractal is coming into my mind right now. It
Mm,
really is a fractal of a use case set, isn't it?
mm,
In so many
mm,
different ways. One thing I've seen of late, V, and hey, look, we've both been in this very, very long time. Of late, I have seen so many near misses, and AI is definitely helping people. And I'm seeing this kind of, we've got kind of two sides of the coin, haven't we? If we look at cyber specific use case, and maybe we should definitely do one on the on our university stuff on the ethics side. I think that would be really
mm,
interesting. So note to
mm.
self on that. But it's accelerating the pace of which cybersecurity risks are executed and exploited, I guess. And
Mm,
of late, I've seen so many near misses. But then I'm also
mm,
seeing it's almost like a patchwork quilt of solutions as well. So I'm seeing people, let's say, with a SOC, trying to defend against all the attacks, not just AI driven ones. And they are having to uplift their providers or their own teams with a sort of, I don't know, an AI patch almost. It's like, these traditional tools are not working. So let's bring in some AI to augment, or let's say fix the underlying systemic problem of the fact that traditional tools are not being seen, or AI enabled traditional tools are still not driving an outcome. So share with me your thoughts there, because it's a scarily fast expanding surface, and time to executing a breach is it's pretty quick now.
yeah, and this has been one of the things that I've been exploring inside most organisations um, is some good foundational security
Mm.
to solve the issues of the IT and also the OT landscape.
Yes.
Um, and there's a maturity of that, but most organisations have started to get visibility across all of those environments.
Yes.
And with some of the tools that we have at the moment, I'm getting some good AI visibility across use, right across the organisation,
Mm.
AI applications, AI models that are being used. Um, and that tells a different story. It tells me a story that there's a whole mushrooming of shadow AI happening in the organisation. And for some organisations, um, like perhaps the organization I'm in, that might be okay for a period of time, for a period of experimentation, if there's guardrails and some general awareness of how to use models safely and how to protect the really sensitive data. That experiment might be okay, but at some point, as this scales, it needs to be all brought together. Um, and kind of what I'm looking at now is similar to what we've built for other environments. We will build um, to overlay across all of the AI within the organisation, and we'll be able to apply guardrails, real-time controls to protect for privacy. We'll be able to check inputs in and out and also protect the data and get a bit of a new dashboard, particularly looking at solving this problem of how is this AI behaving, and and then that will allow us to apply controls, but also make decisions because we've got new visibility. But that's the kind of work that's now kind of needed, because the traditional um, security monitoring, some of it monitors for this, but a lot of it is quite difficult to detect. And
Yeah.
if you look at how these models work, um, they don't always behave the same way every time you use them. So
Yeah.
there's kind of an unpredictability in how the models themselves work. Um, and that's a challenge, because in security, I think we like to put a control in place based on predictability and things like that. So so yeah, that's a whole new thing to kind of explore, I think.
You you mentioned the word visibility, and isn't it fascinating that we can use AI to detect shadow AI? But you also point out it's almost like, I don't know, let's take a Bloxberg type example that, when we look at security, we look for event singularities. There is a log that does something, and we like to package it, and therefore that package can help us in an empirical way, in an equation, x plus y equals z. And the problem is we have so much visibility, but not complete necessarily joined up visibility. So there's such an opportunity for AI here to almost take that kind of, I don't know, stretchy elastic kind of component of it and start taking empirical things and being more reasoning and problem solving. And that's the thing I'm absorbing myself most in at the moment, is how do we solve problems? And the AI is
Mm.
such a key thing there, isn't it, V? But you're right,
Yeah.
unpredictability, which I think I also see as quite useful sometimes. One, on the bad side, it's not consistent, but the other side is a little bit of jitter is actually quite good. Approach it a different
Mm.
way. Um,
Mm.
but let me throw this one at you, and we haven't discussed it, but because it's only come up of late. Last night I was sitting talking to my team, and I was blown away by some of the research they're doing. And it's not because it's research for research's sake, but it's real. So we've bypassed a major WAF, a major WAF. I'm not going to say who it is. It's not about naming technologies. It's the concept, isn't it, that's important. How did we do it? ChatGPT. Now that took some doing. So,
Mm.
but what I found was so we look on the attack side or the simulation of
Mm.
attack side, AI is such an amazing thing if you uplift it. But my fear
Mm.
is, from a industry provision perspective, is this took some really experienced minds to get into AI and really leverage AI and use it almost like as hydraulics or an enabling helper to do what they
Mm.
need to do. Give that to a junior or someone who hasn't involved themselves in experience and gone through everything you and I and so many
Mm.
people here that I can see watching have gone through. They don't have that model where they can use it to defend or gain that visibility, do they? You need
Mm.
this first to really get the effectiveness out
Mm.
there. We've
Mm.
discussed this, but share your thoughts on this, V, because I know you've got a really interesting perspective on it.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
How do we?
And the latest thinking I've been doing is
Hmm.
draws on some chaos theory,
Ooh,
because this idea that we do a single pen test a year will no longer work in this very kind of unpredictable and volatile and constantly changing kind of environment. So we need more regular testing happening. Um, so yeah, so let me share with you some of the stuff I'm reading about that at the moment, because I think that's quite an interesting view for some of the new thinking. Um, nothing's. I mean, it's security's never been set and forget, but I think as the rate and pace of change and variability and unpredictability increases, we need to be doing much more kind of attack and respond and simulate live kind of simulation of what ifs more regularly. Yeah.
I love that. We've just done something special here, which is the joy of these lives is it's unscripted, and we both know that, and
Mhm.
we're there to work a problem. Chaos theory. I've not thought about that. So you've matched. So our scripted traditional approaches are not enough.
Mhm.
AI has accelerated rates from defense and alternatives to
Yeah.
attack.
Mhm.
And we need to revisit our model. I guess I'm hearing you say here, I mean, our thinking, not the service, not the how, but the thinking that sits behind it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in a sense, we have to sort of keep pace with some of the stuff that AI is doing, right? So AI has moved from computing to reasoning, um,
Mm.
and so we need to check the reasoning, which is helpful, but I think it also requires a different shift in our thinking as well. Yeah.
I think you're describing a watershed moment in our industry, V. And I haven't heard anyone call that up before. Not quite like that. It's not working, is it? If we look at what AI is doing, it is moving so fast.
Mm, mm,
our model doesn't work, does it? If you think about that.
Yeah. So, I've got a really interesting quote that I wanted to share, which I think, and often when I talk to people about AI, I'll kind of talk about the rate of adoption to 100 million users, and
Mm,
I talk about it feeling like whiplash, that what is happening at this the speed and pace and its impact on security teams is one of a real jolt,
mhm, mm,
and we kind of really feel that. And I don't know anyone else who's, if you're presenting to executives and boards at the moment, um, this is a surprising kind of topic that just keeps coming up, like whiplash, like it just keeps coming back into the conversation. And McKinsey said something really interesting. They said, you know, two things, that this is a time when you should be getting benefits and hoping your competitors are just playing around and experimenting. Um, and they also said that about 1% of organisations might be starting to kind of mature things. And the biggest barrier to scaling wasn't actually employees who were ready. And I can see how many employees are using AI. It's actually a lot in organisations,
mm.
but it's actually leaders who are not steering fast enough.
Crikey. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that. This is really, now I love this. Is so organic. So leaders are not steering fast enough. What do you see? What's the manifestation of that? What's giving you that feel, that sense of indication there, V?
Um, it well, when I see the data,
Mm,
about what's going on in the organisation. And then I sit back and then have a look at, what have we got in place? And we've got some good, and many organisations have got some good policies, and they've got, a framework that they've adopted.
mm,
And we're trying to manage this from a compliance point of view, but we actually can't, because the minute we try and assess for compliance, um, we might be realising, we're falling short, right? We actually, there's a whole learning curve we need to go on to understand, how do we test, how do we, what are the core skills that this kind of new world kind of requires, um, and if we're actually assessing a model, have the security teams kept pace with the AI teams, and have the AI teams been engaging close enough with the security teams? Because um, no one will use AI unless they trust the AI.
mm.
They trust the AI generally through the security controls that are in place. So we're seeing this being a new area that a lot of collaboration is required.
You've helped me in this. 3 years ago, I went back to the drawing board, as you know, and you really, later on in that process, interface with me to help me rationalize a path that I knew was quite lonely. And I say lonely because I ask questions that look at the efficacy of what we're doing. And I think you might have just triggered something really big in my mind here, V, which is we're falling short. I've not heard it described like that before. You've called it out. So with this extraordinary adoption curve, forced, pulled, accepted, accelerated, and all the above, right?
Mm, mm,
And our paradigm has shifted underneath our feet, or whatever metaphor you'd like to use. And the sort of whackers just called this out in the comments there. It is a double-edged sword, but we're falling short on it. And then you say something else which is really interesting, which is we need to be changing our approach to leadership within this. You're the sort, and I admire you for it, that embraces it and runs with it and see, there we are, you see AI as opportunity. You see it
mm,
as AI
mm,
as opportunity. And that's not a cyber thing. That's a technologists and business leadership thing.
mm,
And yes, it has its cyber components to it. So and then you share this kind of chaos theory. It is downright chaos out there, but in chaos there's all great structure as well if you go and look for the
Mm,
algorithms, right? Tell me about your
mm,
thinking here, and I don't want to put you on the spot with it, but we're working a problem, and that's so very cool. What do we need to do to come into that 1% and bring it back together and, I don't know,
yeah.
grasp it more?
So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to write the
Oh, I love
next
this.
essay that follows the one that we've just written,
You sure you don't want to do a PhD together?
and not yet. And so
I'm working on you on that.
let's do stage two of what we've started,
Hmm.
and yeah, I'll share some of the stuff I'm reading, and let's do some writing on it, and when we're ready, we'll release it and have another chat about it. But I probably I'm so early in some of my thinking and reading that I probably won't talk too much more now, if that's okay.
No, no, that's great. I mean, this is what it should be, right? Though, because everyone delivers these polished, things when they go live and things like that. And the point is, we're here to work a problem with our industry, right? So,
Mm,
hey, we've
mm.
just exposed things like that. Oh, we've had some light bulbs appear on the screen. That's kind of cool. I've never seen that happen before. So this is raw, authentic, and professional. I like this. So let's move on to the next topic, V, which is so important now, which is third-party AI and supply chain risks. And I'd like to call out for everyone, and I'm proud to see this. V is so proactive. When we say we're going to do something, you think it through, and then I receive a compendium of so many things that potentially we could discuss. I find this fascinating. So, all respect to you, I'm queuing from your own notes on this as
Mm.
inspiration. So, you mentioned many AI models operate opaque systems, making it challenging to access data handling practices and security postures. And there's also the geopolitical and such, and the workflow aspects within AI and supply chain risk. So, can you unpack some of your thinking around this? Because I think this is a very serious area.
Yeah, so this is it, right? So for big suppliers, most organisations have got, the supplier assessments, and we do the risk assessments, and that's a, a, a well-run kind of engine in most organisations. What happens with AI applications is they creep into the organisation.
Mm,
Um, Many of them, we haven't done security risk assessments, we haven't done privacy impact assessments on.
mm,
Um, so I'm starting to sort of ask but the first step is visibility, right? So with some tools, I've got some now really great visibility. And now my process is to actually start to put risk scores against all of the AI applications that are being used in the organisation. Um, and then starting to work with the business to say, hey, I see you're using this particular application in an experimental way.
mm,
The data might be held in a place that might not suit some of our governance requirements, or we might have some concerns at a data level.
mm.
Can we have a look at an alternative, or can I bring this into kind of the enterprise so we can actually apply some controls? And you can continue to use it, but we'll use it with guidance and guardrails. Um, so so it means that all of our supply chain processes, because these are small purchases, right? They might happen on a credit card. People might actually um, they might actually self-fund a lot of this stuff that they're
Yes.
experimenting and exploring with, right? To give themselves the competitive edge. Um, we need to sort of make sure our procurement and supply chain processes are nimble and are catching this as well, um, because risk sits all through that chain, and new risks could be being introduced to the organisation, based on all sorts of. It's another entry point. We go back to this idea that the attack surface with AI applications just got a little bit bigger, um,
That's
than
an
the stuff that we were
understatement.
already managing. Yeah.
I'm going to use a phrase of kind of making up on the spot here. It's a chaos net that's been thrown out there, right?
Mm,
I was on the phone to a client in California earlier this morning, and she and I were talking about how to work that third party supply chain problem. It's
mm,
fascinating. And one of the solutions is, we have our standard practices of due diligence. And then remember in CISO Sydney when someone actually called out that they do dark web monitoring on their supply chain to call out when their vendor says, have you had a security breach? No, you don't. Well, hold on a minute. Why are your credentials on the internet? Isn't there a disconnect there? And so this AI enabled, almost, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Reverse due diligence is incredibly valuable to sort of, and then if you think about it, right, we have all these controls again, back to our sort of, I don't know, Bloxberg type, unit kind of entity model, where we protect all our data and make sure it's safe. And we do our due diligence, but someone with their personal credit card goes and puts all the company data in some third party. And as I'm working this through in my mind right now, I start thinking this. Everyone is thinking about securing AI in terms of what's the LLM doing? LLM doing, and what's its how's its what shadow copy of data is essentially or inference of the data is being stored. But no one's actually sitting there and thinking, hold on a minute, these things still run on cloud-enabled servers. They've still got CVEs and CVSSs associated. We can breach them. It's a scary model, isn't it? So this leakage or permeation.
Yeah.
Oh,
And not all
crikey.
data is equal, right? So we
No.
need to be really pragmatic, and we need to have a risk lens across this. PII data, private data is something we need to be really worried about, and so is IP data. Anything that kind of involves any kind of strategic projects, that's the data we need to be really careful about.
Yeah.
So we have to allow parts of, depending on the organisation you're in, security follows the business strategy, right? So if you're in an organisation where there is it's an innovative organisation and there is experimenting happening. Um, you know, AI will be, it's this golden thread that will be in a lot of the innovative experimentation. So it's about kind of partnering and working with those parts of the organisation who are doing that. Other organisations, it will be a much more controlled environment. If you're in defence and finance and government, there's a whole bunch of other controls, harder controls, more blunt controls that are absolutely put down. So again, we go back to this primary purpose of security. Security supports the business strategy. Security supports the areas of innovation and growth in organisations, particularly in private organisations.
There's that, back to your point about the leadership though, V, isn't it? You're taking and how can we mentality, an enabling mentality. And okay, so we're going to go and do some things. Let's just do them safely. I'll call out a couple of things we're seeing in the comments here. Very interesting. Philippe's called it out about AI subscriptions and sort of license creep and wastage as well. And that goes to your point about procurement. How can we embrace the organization and say, well, not all data is as sensitive as other data. We can take some risks as long as they're measured and they're understood. How can we help you? How can we get it off your personal card and get it into a procurement place? How can we then see the scale and the economies out of that? You've done something amazing. Don't just keep it there. We had it internally. One of our VPs built his own LLM because he realized he could not keep the context of code reviews in his mind because they're so big, some of them. And the next thing we know, we're buying him a whole bunch of gear to go and enable that and saying, you stop buying this yourself, please. Because everyone does it. They're enthusiastic. We'll enable you. Tell us, how can we fund this? How can we pour this knowledge in? And suddenly you get this kind of reverse tipping effect, where now everyone's sitting this and going, oh, wow, look at what we can do with this. And this is not to shortcut, not to do things necessarily quicker, but to do things to a better quality. So there's so many derived benefits that we can use if we leverage our supply chain and our people using said supply chain in a really cool way, right?
Yeah. And it goes back to a lot of what we've discussed at other events. The role of leaders in cyber is around influence. It's one coffee conversation after another. What are you doing? And sharing, and then partnering and securing. And sometimes, the best approach is this beautiful secure by design with patterns and guidelines and isolated environments and all of those things that at the early stage.
Mm.
But what's just as important is sometimes also security attach. Let's have a look at what you've done. Now let's kind of wrap the right controls around what's happened, and for others that are doing it, then let's make the pattern so that others can follow what you've done.
You said something security attach, V. How do you mean?
In an ideal world, you would do secure by design. As you're in the
Mm.
build phase, you would build with security controls and all of those sorts of things.
Mm.
Sometimes people are building without all of those controls because they're trying to meet cost and budget, right?
Yep.
But after they've met the cost and budget and delivered it, then it's got to come into the enterprise, and we've got to then attach the right level of security to it post build. So this was an idea I played around with at Avanade. We did a lot of work on secure by design, and building security into all of the solutions we were building.
Mm.
But occasionally, due to the customer saying, "Oh, because of budget, we don't want security included yet." So we would stay close to the deal, and after the deal was sold, we would then attach security as another scope of work. More expensive to do that way, but business doesn't always happen in this beautiful, predictable way. So you have to kind of work as you need to work, right?
So, reading between the lines here, one of the biggest problems in cybersecurity right now is the organic nature of the human mind and the organization, and the fact that organizations chase the business imperative. And then we as an industry sit there and say, no, 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 you can't do that. Or let's put some controls in place. Or even if we're really proactive, let's enable you and help you. But there's a reality that maybe sometimes, just maybe, and there's got to be some caveats here,
Yeah.
you can let it go a bit. As long as you know about it and you can take a risk decision and just keep a close eye on it and use it as an enabler. And then doesn't that gain an extraordinary amount of respect from the organization that you're saying, we're going to come along and attach later on. We're just going to watch it though. We'll call it out when we need to attach. Let's get to a minimum viable
Yeah, and
position first.
that's why you would have test environments and isolated environments kind of built for that kind of, we've always done it like this, right?
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that that's the way some developers will work like that, right? Others will be happy to work within a platform that you build with
Mm.
regular,
Mm.
gating and things like that, and other people will just want to run the problem, and so you need an isolated environment for them to do that. But at the point that they've got something, we then need to be able to kind of bring it in, attach security into the model.
I love that. There's another essay.
No
It
more
really,
essays, right?
it really,
We'll do the chaos theory one, and
yeah.
that'll be brilliant.
um, volunteers, please, for the next essay on security attach. Now, point number 3: targeted education for security professionals. So you've kind of touching on this now. Are we stuck in our old models there? Because I mean, I don't see them working properly. The number of near misses. See, everyone sees breaches, and I suddenly had this epiphany that hit me not that long ago. Maybe it's because you just become very close to working problems, and therefore you see the darker side of that moon that other people don't necessarily see. But the near misses are extraordinary. I mean, I'm talking real serious ones as well, either induced or real. We're not keeping up with things and not really getting it. And now we're in this hugely accelerating model. Everyone knows AI, but I'd argue most people don't know AI. I certainly don't. Not like you, not like those who are embracing and leading with it. So what do we as an industry need to do to take this forward? And I'll just preempt before you ask that. Anyone's got some questions, lots of comments, but we'll have a few minutes to some questions. So pop those in the chat if you can as well. But V, what do we need to about our own profession here?
So this is the area that's an opportunity for everybody. For those that are in AI to learn about security, and for those that are in security to learn about AI, because these models require trust. We'll only get that trust when people know that there's guardrails that have been put in place and it's safe to use, and we can manage and get visibility of what the problems are and things like that. So I just see it as opportunity for everyone to learn another discipline, and to really equip themselves for the kind of skills that the future needs.
Yeah. I saw that of late when I saw, I think it was yesterday, that we bypassed a major WAF. If you think about it, that's an amazing thing. Or you can just see it as another component of using your own education to uplift your education and using tools around you. This one just happens to be AI. And so AI is just such an incredible enabler. Hey, it's done something extraordinary that I didn't think was a world challenge that would be able to be solved. I've learned complex maths and I couldn't do arithmetic through to AI because I could sit there and talk to the damn thing and help me uplift that to solve some of my engineering problems. So the point being, you're making here is opportunity and enablement, right? It's such
Yeah,
an enabler and scary
yeah,
at the same time on the other side.
yeah. So I think I said in the essay, and I quote someone who said this before me, that the invention of the ship was also the invention of the shipwreck, but it was also the opening of
Interesting.
new markets and new economies and new trading routes and all of those sorts of things. This is the same metaphor applies here. AI is the new ship, in the uncharted waters, and it could end as a shipwreck, or it could open up a new economy, a new market, that we hadn't seen before.
That is extraordinary metaphor, isn't it? It really is. Because once we start that journey, we don't know where it's going to go.
Mm, mm,
And you can be, if so, the same metaphor in aviation as well. You see accidents happen, but there's so many people that study those accidents and learn from those journeys and share openly.
yeah, yeah,
And that gives us the feedback to then navigate and take those ships or those journeys into
yeah,
interesting waters, right?
yeah. So keeping that idea of guiding the ship,
Mm.
and relating it back to my quote from McKinsey: "Are we steering fast enough?" We might be steering, but are we steering fast enough, um, for what's happening?
Yeah, it's like an oscillation, isn't it? It's the amplitude of that oscillation is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we need to sort of put, not necessarily accept we're going to dead straight, GPS enabled line, but at least we can have some sort of like
Mm,
guardrails,
mm,
some degree of border in this. So we've got some. Here's your metaphor, V. You've got some navigation going on here, rather than this like we're just like, where the heck are we going?
yeah. And Dan, we've done this before, right? We did this with cloud.
Mm,
We did this, our DNA in IT and network and
mm,
infrastructure. We've done this before, with the birth of telephony, with the birth of data, with the birth of mobile data, with the web browser being launched, with us going to cloud. So we have this in our DNA. I think of the metamorphosis that a caterpillar goes through to becoming a butterfly. And inside the caterpillar are these imaginal cells. So
mm,
that the caterpillar knows deep within itself that it's got this thing. It's going to happen, right? And it
mm,
goes through this really kind of awful, metamorphosis. It's a messy kind of process. But deep in the cells, those cells turn into something else, right?
mm,
So, my career has always been about transformation. The skills that we've led, other things, other IT programs, we now draw on for these kinds of programs, right? Anyone who's led an organisation from on-prem to cloud has done a similar kind of journey, has wrestled with controls. We've worked them out, we've put patterns in place, and we now do it, right? So, I've got a lot of faith that we do know how to do this. We bring the right minds together, we bring the skills together, we embark on a learning journey, and we will solve it.
So maybe we have been here before. Interesting, isn't it? Just in a different way. It's perhaps quite amorphous for people to understand, but it's such a breadth, isn't it? It's such a multi-dimensional chaos net. There we are. There it is again. I just want to call, just get together. We're almost at 45 minutes, for goodness sake. I didn't realize it would go on, but it's so interesting. So visibility, chaos theory, falling short. My goodness, V, if you've called something out today, there it is, falling short. Context of an organization and wider journey, an enablement journey, a new leadership paradigm. Hey, if this is not the big enabler for the CISO, what is? And therefore opportunity. And I love that phrase, security attached. It's almost like the limpet of, oh, we got you now. That's good. Let's summarize. Let's sum up further. Where do you see your own personal thinking going in this? What are you excited about in the next 6 months as you continually absorb yourself in that wonderful library?
Yeah, I'm very excited about some of the programs that I'm working on, and they started long before I joined the organisation. So we're 18 months into a very large program of work. A lot of our operation is already autonomous, and we're now layering some AI on top of that to enable faster efficiency and decision making. And that's right across the whole program, from extraction to port. And every little bit of efficiency that we get through that program actually helps us. And as we put then all of the dimensions in around us wanting to be green and wanting to be sustainable, we'll be needing to draw sources of data from weather patterns and all sorts of other data points together to plan work and schedule work in an optimal way, based on the kind of technology we might be using, whether it's solar or whether it's wind or whether it's battery or whether it's electrical. So the new world requires us to solve things faster in a new way. AI will help us with some of that kind of solving those new problems and getting greater efficiency. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to be part of kind of securing that whole program of work, because of what that will do for the organisation. So that's my personal kind of project, and also within the security team, I'm very keen that we use AI in a lot of our detection response capabilities, malicious code analysis capabilities, incident response summaries, threat hunting, all of those sorts of things. And then I basically then will be listening to the business as they are using it. A lot of AI is being used in HR. There's a lot of people are using AI as they apply for jobs and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of new problems that we need to solve and govern for and guide as well. So I think we started this essay by saying AI everywhere, and I think that's a really apt way to finish. Is sometimes we don't see it, like we don't see electricity, but it is there, and I'll finish there.
I talk to a lot of people, as everyone knows. This has got to be one of the coolest sessions we've ever done. It really is.
Anyway, I do have to get down the terrace and into the office, and I do have to hand the music studio over now to the creative in my house, who is raring to go and record music and enjoy this space. So it's been delightful to have a bit of a very exploratory, winding conversation with you. I think my commitment is further research and another piece of writing, which I'm happy to do. So thank you for the opportunity to talk, think, collaborate, and it's been great.
You make this industry a joy, V. Thank you. I hope everyone's enjoyed this. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Super. Thanks. See you, Dan.